July the 10th, 2025. And we are live. Do me a favor. Do me a huge favor. If you would, please bless me by hitting that thumbs up. I would greatly appreciate it. I would greatly appreciate if you hit that thumbs up for me. I really would. Okay, let's get right into this. Now, the radical Democrats, the radical liberals, they were going after President Trump. They're still going after President Trump. No matter what they do, they figured that they have to do anything by any means necessary to try to stop President Trump, to try to end President Trump, which is kind of weird to me because the American people says they want President Trump. So with that said, I want to get to some of this other stuff here. John Brennan. Now, this story, kind of, I guess it broke over the weekend or last week, where John Brennan, the FBI is looking into him and James Comey about the corruption that they did when they were in the FBI. All this corruption. Now, with the corruption that they were doing, the dossier, the whole Russia collusion, delusion, they did all of that, Russia collusion, delusion, that nonsense, trying to push it like it was a valid thing. Now, we all knew that it was fake. When Robert Mueller spent, $42 million? $42 million later, because they all kept saying, wait till the Mueller report comes out. When the Mueller report comes out, then you're going to know that President Trump was colluding with Russia. He was colluding with Russia. Y'all remember that? Oh my goodness. That's all that we heard over and over and over again. Time and time again. It was like never ending. It was never ending for them. The whole Russia collusion delusion. It's like that's the only thing that they could talk about. And then they kept saying, well, wait until the Mueller report comes out. The Mueller report. And then when the Mueller report came out, and he says there was no actual evidence of President Trump colluding with Russia. There was no evidence of it. Never happened. And then they were all upset with Robert Mueller. Oh, he must have got to you. President Trump must have got to you. No, he didn't. It never happened. And even today, you still have people on the left still out there screaming, trying to convince everybody that President Trump colluded with Russia. Oh, him and Putin are buddies. Before you know it, he's going to have all of us speaking Russian. I've heard it all the time, over and over and over again. Well, now that they are being investigated, and I have my reservations about this. And the reason why I do, because Pam Bondi decided to say there was no client list, along with President Trump, which a lot of people are still questioning that. So the FBI opened an investigation into John Brennan and James Comey, the failed FBI director, former. And who's over the FBI? Kash Patel. Who's over Kash Patel? Pam Bondi. So them open up this investigation, all of us are like, oh, okay, maybe they just did this to throw us a bone because of the client list. I don't know. What do you think? Leave me a comment. But I think they only did this, again, I'm going to say it again, to just throw us a bone, to get us to okay, well, at least they're giving us something. They should have done this 4 months ago. I don't know what they're waiting on. They should have already done this. As soon as day one, soon as they got into the position, FBI and the DOJ, they should open this case up. But nonetheless, they're here. I'm hoping that Pam Bondi doesn't do the same thing with this case, saying, oh, well, we did an investigation in it, and there's nothing there. Nothing to see here. Well, listen to John Brennan on MSDNC. And of course, he's probably not happy. See, he's probably under the impression that the CIA would never release the information about him and James Comey doing all this corruption during that time, that they would just, be on their side with all of this because they all supposed to hate Trump. And now that it's coming to the surface, it's not looking good for him. He needs to be held responsible for what he did. They went to the FISA courts. The dossier that they did this with, they knew that it was fraudulent from the get-go.
Does it mean that this happened now? Well, it means, from my perspective, that the women and men of the CIA deserve, stronger, better, apolitical, nonpartisan leadership at such a challenging time of our national security globally with everything that's going on. And it's clear that Mr. Ratcliffe decided that he was going to initiate this. I think, again, to try to satisfy the interest, the urge of Donald Trump, who continues to claim that the assessment of Russian interference in the 2016 election was a hoax. It was not. It clearly was not. Russia interfered. They tried to help Donald Trump. They tried to hurt Hillary Clinton. They tried to, undermine the democratic foundations of our country in terms of our election integrity. This has been validated over and over again. Move on. Get over it. But clearly, Donald Trump, believes that this is something that I think continues to need to be looked at and criticized. But again, I stand behind the assessment. I think the assessment has stood the test of time. And again, I point to those reviews that were done in a apolitical, nonpartisan fashion.
You hear that? He's nervous. He's nervous. And he's spewing the same nonsense out there. The Mueller report, like I just mentioned, the Mueller report said that there was no evidence of President Trump colluding with Russia. Never even happened. Never even happened. But yet he's saying the same thing. And MSDNC, they know, they remember. Look, if I can remember the Mueller report coming back and said that there was nothing there, President Trump, no evidence of him doing it. Now, has Russia ever attempted to try to hack the United States of America? Yes. Did United States of America, ever attempt to hack Russia, Iran, Israel, China? Yes. All of the nations in the world try to hack each other. Did you know this? And sometimes it's just, to be doing it, not to be malicious. It happens. And I learned this when I was living in California, that hackers will just hack everybody just to see if they can do it. And that's what happens. So that, you didn't have to tell us about that. What we wanted to know, that President Trump actually do it, and he never did it, but yet they're still spewing it. Still spewing it. No good and well, it didn't happen.
And am I mistaken? But didn't they say that the guy that filed the dossier actually filed a false dossier, and he was charged, but he was only given, I don't know, it wasn't even a sentence. It was basically a slap on the hand. But didn't they find that it was a fake claim that started this whole thing?
The dossier?
Yeah.
Yeah. They went to the FISA courts. They went to the FISA courts with the dossier. And then the judge, to my understanding, which they haven't brought up in a while, and I've heard him talk about it before.
It was based on the false claim from Hillary Clinton's campaign, right?
Yes. The judge even knew that it was a false claim at the FISA court, and yet still went along with it. So who was that judge? I want to know who the name of that judge. Can we get the name of that person? Right? We can't get the client list for anything else. Can we get the name of that judge? That judge should be held responsible as well. That judge was in on it, because the judge still pushed it through, even though it was not the normal procedure. They knew that it was fraudulent, and they still went ahead with it. Why? Because they tried to take down President Trump. They did not want President Trump to come in, because look, the American people did not want Hillary Rodham Clinton. The American people didn't want her. I mean, let's just be honest here. And Hillary Clinton just knew she had it in the bag. Like, it was hers for the taking, and no one's going to take it from her. And then here comes President Trump making all this headway. In their minds, okay, we need to go to some tricks to try to stop him. And they failed. Thank you. I love it. They failed. I'm so happy that they failed. Because if they did not fail during that time, during the 2016, oh my goodness, can you imagine what the world would be like right now? But see, God had different plans. God had plans for President Trump to go in office in 2016, but God had plans as well for President Trump not to be there in 2020. Even though they did what they did, he wasn't supposed to be there. And I'm happy, be honest with you. And some of y'all might not like this for me to say this, but I think some people are starting to recognize this now. It was better for President Trump not to be there in 2020, because Had he been there, he would have still been doing great things, and people would have been, working, and they've still just been complaining, believing the lying liberal media. And the Democrats would have been elevated even more because of, oh, look at this, look, he's doing this, he's doing that, he's doing this. They would have been fighting him all the way. And they probably would have had another opportunity to impeach President Trump, which they're going to try again. He hasn't done anything impeachable, not even the first time. But the Democrats, if they get control, they're going to try to do it again. But the reason why I believe that President Trump, and it was a good thing that he wasn't there in 2020, this is my reasoning, is because people would have never seen it. They would have never seen exactly how bad the Democrat Party really is. And now people are seeing it. I mean, a lot of people. Yes. To the point now that the Democrats, we're going to get to this a little bit later here in a minute, to the point where the Democrats, they're trying to figure out what candidate they're going to run in 2028. They're trying to figure it out. See, some of them going like, oh, yeah, Gavin Gruesome Newsom. But Gavin Gruesome Newsom has so much baggage. We're going to get to that. But listen to this other report. Now, this other guy on MSDNC, the guy right here, this guy right here, apparently he has something to do with the whole dossier and the whole Russia collusion delusion as well, because MSDNC, of course, they're bringing him on there. And he's on here saying, look, he's telling them, stop talking about this story. Now, I was going to talk about it a little bit yesterday, but we had the explosive news that I thought was probably a little bit more important, because, or at least new. Not that this is not important. Don't get me wrong. But we talked about the Democrats calling for blood yesterday, and I had this information yesterday, but I just want to address it today. You listen to him, he's saying, stop talking about the story. Well, you know what? We don't need to stop talking about the story. And this is part of the reason why I'm talking about it today. Because they don't want us to talk about it. They want it to go away. They really do. Well, it's not going to go away. And if you listen to him closely, you can kind of tell that he's like maybe shaking in his boots because they're coming. He needs to be dealt with. If I did anything remotely close to what he's done, they would come get me.
We predicted, you and I and others, that we were going to get to this moment. And the question is, what do we do? And the question of what we do is multifaceted. The first question is, what do we do? Do we retreat and hide in the corner? So I'm on TV today, not hiding in the corner. I'm not retreating. I'm saying I'm going to stand up and I'm fight. And Donald Trump won't intimidate me by going back to this 2016 stuff. And that's one thing. But the other thing we've talked about is, what do large institutions do? What do civil society groups do? What does the media do? And I am imploring, honestly, I'm just imploring the media, do not report this as a legitimate investigation.
Listen to him. Do not report this as a legitimate investigation. But the whole dossier and them going after Trump with the whole fake Russia collusion delusion, that we need to report as a legitimate investigation. But this, oh, no. Make it go away. Make it go away. Listen to him.
What do civil society groups do? What does the media do? And I am imploring, honestly, I'm just imploring the media, do not report this as a legitimate investigation. Do not report this as they're opening a investigation into John Brennan. We will see where it goes.
I mean, look, if I was in his shoes, I'd probably be saying the same thing too. Don't report this. Let it go. Let it go. Stop talking about it. Oh my goodness. Now, look. I'm not happy about the client list, but if this actually happens here and they actually start arresting some people, okay, move on, right? Let's go.
Report this as the misuse, the abuse, the authoritarian takeover of the Department of Justice. That should be the headline. The headline should be, in a misuse and abuse of the power of the executive branch, Donald Trump has asked his Department of Justice to open a bogus investigation into John Brennan.
Wow, a bogus investigation into John Brennan. How is it bogus? If they did the dossier, when they come to find out that they knew that the dossier was a complete fraud, Hillary Clinton's name's all in it, why wouldn't they open an investigation? See, they were anticipating that President Trump would never get back in this position, and that this stuff would never see the light of day. That's what they were thinking. It would never see the light of day. They were hoping for it. See, the deep state, the shadow government, they're doing all of this corruption with the anticipation that nothing that they do will ever come to the surface because they believe that they control everything. They control it all. If we don't want you to believe something, we'll lie to you, and that's what you're supposed to believe. Another thing that they did, remember President Trump, he was at Butler. Remember what happened at Butler? See, the deep state, the Democrats, the shadow government, all one and the same. They tried to take out President Trump. And some of the agents that were there that day just now have been relieved of duty. They've been relieved of duty. Listen to this. Jesse Waters was actually talking about this, and I just wanted to show you how Jesse Waters talked about it. Watch this.
6 Secret Service agents that were connected to Trump's Butler assassination attempt have been suspended. This comes just days shy of the shooting's anniversary. The identities of the agents suspended are unknown, but sources say their roles range from supervisory positions to line-level agents. We'll continue to monitor this story. And
so I still have a little questions, like why did it take so long? Why did they have to wait until now? I guess, at least it's happening. At least it's happening. So are they just getting suspended? I guess that's all it's going to be. They'll probably never release their names. They're going on to the client list as well. That doesn't exist.
My question is why they
why they get suspended?
Why?
That's a really good question, Shannon. Something. That's a really good question. Why just a suspension?
Well, I'm assuming that they're letting them go. When they say suspended,
that's what they call it.
At that point they have a reasonable cause to suspend them.
Yeah.
So that's just the initial phase of it. But why? What did you find? Because assassination is a huge thing. It's a recent thing. We just had a story in the news today where a woman drove up to Mar-a-Lago gates and was demanding to see Trump. And they ended up searching a car. She had guns and stuff in her car. They ended up arresting her for suspended, license. I don't know if they got her for anything else, but there's been so many attempts on Trump's life. What part did these people have? Was it just they should have done a better job? Were they a part of something? We don't know.
Yeah, that's the question. What was the reasoning? What was the reasoning for it? Well, we know why she's showing up there, right? Because I guess going after ICE is not enough. Just going after ICE is not enough. So,
well, yeah.
Just trying to take their lives is not enough any longer. So they're figuring they need to go after directly to the source, which is President Trump. Now, 2028. I want to talk about this really quick. 2028. We're going to have Trump retiring. Trump is not going to be running anymore. It's not to say that we won't get another Trump, right? It's possible to get Trump. What is it, Trump Jr.? Or what's the other one's name? I know there's Don Jr. and then there's Eric. It's possibly they're saying that Eric Trump might run in 2028. Have you heard that, Shannon?
Well, he said it.
Oh, he said it. Okay.
Well, he didn't say 2028. He said 2035, possibly, when he was asked before Trump got elected. And I assume that's probably where his kids are grown up or something.
Oh, okay. And okay. So in that case, I guess in 2028, it more likely would be J.D. Vance.
I think so.
It'd be J.D.
or
Vance,
Marco Rubio.
J.D. Vance or even Marco Rubio. If Marco Rubio keeps hitting it the way he's hitting it right now, and J.D. Vance, it's going to be interesting. It's going to be interesting to see what happens. But
I like Eric Trump.
I like Eric Trump. So I'm just saying it could be possibly Trump. Maybe not in 2028. But anyways, 2028 is an extremely important election because the Democrats see that 2028, unless they can do something in the midterms and reverse everything that President Trump is doing by impeaching him, by taking the House and the Senate, because that's what they'll do. They'll impeach President Trump just because they have the votes. But let's just say the American people are like, yeah, no, we don't need any more Democrats in any position where they can change anything. And if nothing else, with President Trump removing their base for the census report, hopefully that this will remove some of their seats that they currently have, which will be absolutely phenomenal. If it was up to me, not a single Democrat would hold any position where they can make decisions for the American people, because we're talking about Democrats that are not even working for the American people, but yet they're working for illegals. They're not working for us. They don't care about us. They've already made that clear abundantly. Well, come 2028, the Democrats are trying to figure out who do they want to be their front runner. They don't want to have the same mistake that they made with Joe. They don't want to do the same mistake like they did with Kamala Harris. They do not want that same mistake. So right now, the Democrats, they're all scrambling. They don't know if they want to go the way of communism, socialism, stupidism. Not even a word, but it works here. They don't know which way they want to go. They have nothing to stand on. There's no platform to stand on. They're not standing on supporting the American people, because I don't hear any of them coming out other than saying, oh, President Trump is going to take your money away. No, President Trump is cutting taxes so you can have more money in your pocket. So people that are realizing that the Democrats are lying, they're not going to vote for them. And I know the no taxes on tips and no taxes on overtime, that's going to run out in 2028. But I think President Trump and the Republicans did that on purpose. And the reason why I believe they did that on purpose is because when that time comes, they're going to remind everybody, because see, some people need help on remembering. They're going to remind everybody that the Republicans put in no taxes so you can have more money in your pocket. And the economy at that point, as long as the Democrats are not able to intervene and crush the economy will be exploding. It would be beautiful. People are going to go to the polls and they're going to remember President Trump had it where I have more money in my pocket. And the Democrats are going to run on a campaign that they're going to say that, oh, we're not going to get rid of the taxes. No taxes. We're going to keep that in place because they see that the people are going to become accustomed to it. See, that's how it works. You have to have people become accustomed to something and realize it, that the Democrats, when they come to that point, they're going to try to take it away. How many of y'all believe that they're not going to? They don't want you to have it now. They don't want you to have your money in your own pocket. I mean, they actually voted against that. They don't want you to have security in the country. They actually voted for security in our country. They actually voted for that. But see, a lot of people are going to forget a lot of things. So the very fact that it's not been codified for here and forever is because I believe that they did this so that people will remember come 2028. But with that said, the Democrats are scrambling around trying to figure out who they want to run. And Gavin Newsom, apparently, he's running. Gavin Newsom put it out there that he's going to run. We already know this. He put out there that he's going to run. And this past weekend, was it North Carolina, Shannon? I mean, come on. We know that he's running.
He didn't say it, though.
We know that he's running.
His actions say it.
Does he have to say it? Does he have to say those words? Everyone knows it. Even MSDNC knows it. Just like this clip that we have right here. I want y'all to listen to what they say in this clip about Gavin Newsom. Because, look, they already know how bad it is.
Yeah, so this is kind of, just so people know, Gavin Newsom went to South Carolina. And it was nothing more than a campaign-style visit. So, he didn't say I'm running a 2028, but there's no other reason for Gavin Newsom to go to South Carolina and do what he did.
Yeah, there's no reason. Well, listen to what they say here on MSDNC about Gavin Newsom, because I'm telling you right now, they don't want him. They really don't. They're going to say, well, Gavin Newsom has all of this baggage. We need to I'm paraphrasing a little bit. You're going to hear it. We're going to need to push away from him. But then at the end, towards the end of it, they're going to say, but he's pushing back on Trump. TDS is a real thing.
Quality of life issues there. Man, he's a
good fighter, though.
He's really good fighter on TV.
Really
he's a really good debater. But he's got a really big pile of problems back in California.
Yeah, I'm just doing some preliminary research here. I don't see too many direct flights from Sacramento to Charleston or Columbia, in fact, there in South Carolina. Yeah. Governor Newsom, we should note, not the only Democrat who's gone there. Congressman Ro Khanna, another 2028 possibility, was also in South Carolina over the weekend. And we suspect there'll be far more to the Palmetto State in the days ahead. But you're right about Governor Newsom. Certainly California has long been sort of the Republican boogeyman. We know how they attacked former Speaker Pelosi with San Francisco liberalism and the like. Governor Newsom, certainly there have been concerns about things that have happened in California, as you say, quality of life, particularly post-pandemic. Some of his handling of the pandemic also will be called into scrutiny were he to run on the national stage. But he was someone who's
now listen, you see everything he was just saying there. You see what he was saying there? Now, when I go back to this, now he's going to get into but this when the TDS kicks back in, right? Or they get the endorphins, they come back up, the TDS. But he is fighting Trump. He's fighting against Trump, right? So that maybe they'll make the excuse, but I'm telling you right now, they're wanting to turn the United States of America into California. That's their goal.
Handling of the pandemic also will be called into scrutiny were he to run on the national stage. But he was someone who was handed a political gift earlier this year when he became sort of the face of Democratic opposition to President Trump during those moments in Los Angeles with the ICE raids, the accompanying protests, some of the perceived to be overreach by the federal government, deploying the National Guard and the like. Governor Newsom stood up to President Trump in a strong way. And that would be his pitch, guys, is that I'm a fighter here. I tackled him. I took him on in his first term. I'm doing it again now. I could represent our party going forward.
All right, we're going to
take... They're struggling. I'm telling you right now. What are we looking at here, Shannon?
Yeah, and here's the article basically saying what we were just saying. It says Newsom blasts Trump during a South Carolina tour as California governor strokes 2028 speculation. And you know what, Will? It was so disgusting watching him. Oh my gosh. He tries to sound like Obama. He's an Obama wannabe. I think he worships the ground Obama walks on.
You think so?
or he's just as fake. He's the white twin.
Well,
of Obama.
He's the white version of Obama.
Both full of charisma. I mean, Gavin Newsom, when you talk to him, regular conversations like we was talking to Charlie Kirk, even Trump has said he's a nice guy. He seems like a nice guy, but I think he's just fake. I think that, he changes whichever way the wind blows. One day he says that trans women in sports is not fair, and then his policies are still in place where trans men can play in women's sports. I mean, he's so fake. He says what he has to say to get the crowd. He's a showman. There you go. He's a show. He's a clown show performer.
Yeah, he really is. He's a, when I look at him, he reminds me of the Joker in Batman. So this young man, he has words about Gavin Newsom. And to my understanding, he's a Democrat too, correct?
No, he's Republican.
Is he Republican?
He's a House representative in California.
Oh, well, let's listen to what he has to say about Newsom.
Fairness. And that is not my word, by the way. That is the word of Governor Gavin Newsom, who has said that this policy of forcing young women to compete against biological men, the governor himself has said that this is unfair. And yet the governor is putting politics over fairness. He is more concerned about remaining in the good graces of far left radical activists than he is about protecting young women and girls in California. It is all the more disgraceful because maintaining this unfair policy could cost our state billions in federal funding. But I am committed to making sure that does not happen, as are the state lawmakers who are with me today. We want to make sure that we keep our federal funding and that we reverse this disgraceful policy. So number one, today I am calling on Governor Newsom and the supermajority to immediately reverse the policy of allowing biological men to compete in girls' sports in California. And I know Leader Gallagher and Assemblywoman Sanchez and others in the Republican caucus in both the Assembly and the Senate are committed to working across the aisle to make that happen. Number two, I think you are likely to see action very soon from the U.S. Department of Justice to try to bring California into compliance with federal law. And number three, as chair of the U.S. House Education Subcommittee that covers K-12 education, I'm going to be using every tool of oversight available to assure accountability. I want to hear testimony on Capitol Hill from the California politicians who believe that they have the right to defy the civil rights laws of our country. And so hopefully through this combination of measures, we will restore some sanity in this area in California. And there's no one who is better to lead the charge in doing so than the Republican leader of the California State Assembly, James Gallagher.
You know, when I lived in California and I was speaking out like I'm doing now, and that's when I kind of came into the whole realization about how the Democrats are. And when I moved from Arkansas, just a really quick history background here. I moved from Arkansas. I was a registered Democrat in Arkansas. Thank you, God, for healing my mind. Then I moved to California. One would think that moving to California, that you would just go deeper into the rabbit hole. One would think, right? I mean, at least that's my thinking. I'm going to see that you would think so. So I moved to California, and I said, you know what? I'm gonna try something different. And I registered as an independent because I'm like, I'm not gonna do Republican, right? So I did as an independent. And then I realized that I couldn't vote in California in the primary as an independent. I'm like, well, this is not cool. So I had to change. And I said, I'm not gonna do Democrat. So I went ahead and registered as a Republican in California. Then I realized that the Republicans in California, not all of them are up to par. A lot of them are just Democrats and, calling themselves Republicans, AKA rhinos. That's when I learned about rhinos. Well, I was speaking out in California, and I actually had someone from the Republican Party in California. This was years ago. I don't even remember the lady's name. She was upset by the things that I was saying and wanted me to stop talking. She said that I was making them look bad. I'm like, are you kidding me? I'm talking about the things that the Democrats are doing, and you're not even addressing it. I said, I shouldn't be the one saying it in the first place. And look how bad California is. And the same Republicans are still there. This is part of the reason why California is in the predicament that it's in right now. Because some of the Republicans that are high up Republicans in California, they did it to the state along with the Democrats. But of course, they don't want to admit it. They don't want to admit it. All right, so I have one I want to share with you of Gruesome Newsom, but I'm going to share this right when we come back from this break. A short break. I just want y'all to look at this because people always ask me, Will, if it all hits the fan, what do we do? Well, let's not wait until it hits the fan. I want you to go to jace.com, and here's why.
Life can be pretty unpredictable, filled with good days and not so good days. And sometimes, the only difference between the two is your level of preparedness. The Jace case lets you be better prepared for whatever comes your way. It contains antibiotics and other prescription medications so that you aren't caught unprepared. With a Jace case, you are able to get your prescription medication before the unpredictable happens, allowing you to turn those not so good days into great ones. Go to jace.com now and get your own Jace case.
Okay. Yeah, you could have left it there. Jace.com, use promo code WILL.
Image of, in relation to what Trump, where he is, but that's a whole other conversation. So I know that's tough, and I want to just end on this because it's serious, because what Lindsay did to you is pretty extraordinary. What he did to this community is pretty extraordinary. What he did this country is just outrageous. And I'd be remiss if I didn't highlight this. That bill they just signed, that consigns to the greatest transfer of wealth in U.S. history, from one generation to the next. Completely saddling our kids and grandkids. Trillions and trillions of dollars of debt. In order to finance the debt, to provide tax cuts for billionaires and corporations that didn't even ask for them in many cases. Certainly don't need them. Never done better.
No.
Salesman.
Yeah.
Straight up, he's a used car salesman.
So look at
I mean,
him
that's
now.
exactly what it is.
Yeah.
A used car salesman.
Yeah, you see how he just gallantly walks in front of these people. And look at him. He did the same thing Obama did. He puts on this white shirt. He rolls up the sleeves like, I'm a hard worker, right? I'm here for you.
Yeah.
And I got something. I mean, look at just his whole, see how he kind of skipped back? Obama did the same thing.
Well,
I'm
you know
telling
why
you, this guy is obsessed and wants to be like Obama.
Yeah, you know why I believe he's doing that? Because in their minds, it worked. You understand? In their minds, what Obama did, the way he was talking, he convinced people to support him. He had the swag about him.
He was the last Democrat that did 8 years.
Yeah, and so to them, what Obama did worked, right? Because it did work. At the time, it did work. Let's just be honest. It did work. And, Kamala Harris tried to do the same thing. She tried to have that same charisma, but it didn't work. She was so fake, totally fake. I mean, not that he's not fake. He's fake as well. But the thing is, they're trying to have that same like Obama because they think it worked. And the reason why I thought about this, the reason why he's doing it, because they said, well, it worked for Obama, it can work for us. Same thing what they did with the Summer of Love. Right now, we got all the chaos, how they're targeting ICE members, how they're calling for blood, et cetera, et cetera. When the Summer of Love took place, in their minds, because Joe Biden went into the White House, in their minds, it worked. So the things that they see in the past that it worked, they're trying to attempt to do it again.
Yeah.
But Democrat, this is a different time.
Yeah.
This is a different time. We've experienced what it's like to have a true president that's actually for the American people. We've experienced that now. You can't take that from us because we know the American people know better. It's not just politics any longer. It's not just politics. We know. And that's the difference. Well, this guy here, he used to be on Fox News, correct?
Yeah, he used to be on
He had
Fox
a talk
News.
show on Fox News. I would see him every now and then. I like this young man.
Yeah.
And I would love to see Steve become the governor. Now, look, the Republicans in California, I think they're completely fine with a Democrat being in there. I'm just telling you right now. Not all of them, but some of the ones that are in positions of actually making change, they're completely fine with Democrats being in that position. That's the reason why it's been a Democrat ever since, Reagan? Ever since?
When Reagan gave the
amnesty,
gave the Mexican,
amnesty. When they gave amnesty to all the illegals that came in, they have not won.
And that's exactly
California
what the
since.
Democrats want to do today. They want to follow that.
Because they saw
model.
that it worked. It worked. Well, listen to this young man. And I hope he does become the governor of California so we can stop calling it California.
Hi, everyone. Thank you for coming today. I've just been listening to Gavin Newsom bragging about the response of his administration to the devastating wildfires we saw here 6 months ago to this day. I'm quoting him now. The fastest response in terms of debris removal in modern history. 6 months, and this is still here. 6 months. And look at the scene. And Newsom is bragging about the fastest response in modern history. He said that the response of his administration to this disaster was at a historic pace. Quote, a historic pace. He talked 6 months ago about a Marshall Plan to recover from these wildfires. A Marshall Plan. 6 months later, he cannot even clear the sidewalk. How dare he take to the stage today and brag about his response and lie to the people about historic speed of response, of debris removal, when we can see the evidence of his lies and his failure and his incompetence all around us. Today you're going to hear from people in this community who've been affected directly by this disaster and by the absolute failure of Gavin Newsom, Karen Bass, and everyone else involved to respond appropriately with efficiency and in the way that they promised 6 months ago.
So my question is, it is a question. I mean, I think I know the answer. If the people know that Mayor Bass, Gavin Newsom have destroyed California, all that destruction behind him, the people, some of the people that lost everything, the TDS is so strong that they'll just disregard that Gavin Newsom, Mayor Bass, and the rest of the Democrats in the state put the state in that situation and will still vote for the Democrats.
Yeah, it's a bizarre,
how is that not a problem?
Yeah, it's a bizarre
in the
thing,
world?
Isn't it? And they do it over and over. I mean, I guess in some place people kind of live in a fishbowl. You know, not every single person or every single person can see the debris that's still there. And so where they live, they become almost accustomed to the lifestyle and they go, oh, it's okay. I'm okay, even though there's homeless everywhere. I'm okay, you know. And so, but they've made everybody fear Trump and the Republicans, because just Republicans in general, that people on the left start questioning, well, I hate him, but I think I hate Republicans more.
Yeah.
Right?
Well, TDS.
Yeah.
It's not even just Trump derangement syndrome, because Trump is not going to be there forever, everybody. Right? I mean, personally, I wouldn't have an issue with President Trump being there two consecutive terms, but it's not going to happen. Okay, let's just be real here. It's not going to happen. With that said, the Democrats, knowing that President Trump is not going to be there for another term, TDS also means not just Trump derangement syndrome, but truth derangement syndrome.
There you go.
Truth derangement syndrome.
There you go.
Because they cannot stand the truth.
And
I hope that's clear.
And you know what, Will? It's not that Gavin Newsom can't clean that up, because let's be honest, when Xi Jinping went to San Francisco,
oh my goodness, very good point.
He had the huge task of cleaning up San Francisco and did it very well.
Very good point.
You can't tell me that if he puts all his energy and resources in cleaning up this debris, he couldn't have done it. The fact is, he doesn't care. He cares more about what he looks like on his podcast, which if I was a resident in California, I would be so irritated that he has a podcast. I'd be so irritated that he's going to South Carolina and not addressing the issues where I live. So either, to your point, Will, they're going to get so sick of Gavin Newsom and the Democrats that they're finally going to switch, because in this past election, there were actually some places in California that flipped Republican for the first time in a long time when Trump was running.
That is true.
So could that resonate again in the midterms or for this election? We'll have to see.
Yeah, we shall see. Hopefully we will see more of that. We will see more of that. Well, let me change it up. You know, there's so much to talk about. But we got to talk about Joe Biden. Just a little bit here. Joe Biden, for those of you that don't know, he was in the White House for the past 4 years, caused so much destruction in our country, got millions upon millions of illegals in the country. And Joe Biden was so out of it, he didn't know, apparently. Now, I wasn't there with him, but on the outside looking in, Joe Biden had no clue that the auto pen was on overdrive, causing all this destruction. Even President Trump said that if Joe Biden knew about some of the stuff that they were doing, that he would have been against it. You know, the original Joe, he would have been against it. But Joe Biden was so out of it. He's at the beach. He's at his home. He's never there. And when he is there at the White House, he was sleeping, you know, at 4:30 in the afternoon. And he didn't wake up until 11 o'clock the next day. They made it clear that, hey, yeah, you know what? He needs his rest. So the auto pen did all of the work. Remember, Joe Biden couldn't walk upstairs. Joe Biden was trying to shake invisible hands. Joe Biden couldn't complete a sentence. Joe Biden would struggle. He would fight with the teleprompter. Joe Biden couldn't call on somebody unless it was on a card. And even though it was on the card, he was still struggling with that. They told him what the question was on the card and the answer, how to answer it on the card. And he couldn't even do that. He was falling asleep multiple places. Now, look, granted, I get it. You get tired, you're traveling, you're busy. And I've done it. We all done it, right? We're like with meetings and stuff like that. I'm like, man, I'm just like dying here. I need to go take a nap. I get it. Been there, done that. But Joe Biden was like that for him every single day. Now we have this doctor of Joe Biden's that's pleading the fifth. Straight up pleading the fifth. Now, the doctor was asked multiple times about Joe Biden's mental capacity. Is Joe Biden okay? Oh, he's fine. Remember Karine Jean-Pierre? Joe Biden's running circles around everybody. They should bring her in as well. And Jen Psaki. But I think Jen Psaki got out when the getting was good. Because she saw how bad Joe was, and she's like, I don't want to have anything to do with this. She saw the auto pen and all that going on, so she can have the excuse of just being out, bouncing. Well, listen to Joe Biden here just to remind you how Joe Biden was and who he is.
I've taken 3 significant and intense neurological exams by a neurologist. In each case, as recently as February.
You hear this? Now, I had to stop it because I didn't realize there was music in there, Shannon. And you know how they do with the music. They take the video down. But Joe Biden's, he's not there. He's not there. Well, Jesse Waters bring it back. Jesse Waters got footage of the doctor in there taking questions. And everything was, I plead the fifth. I plead the fifth.
Yeah, so his doctors.
I plead the fifth.
His doctor was actually subpoenaed because he didn't voluntarily go to talk to Comer and them. So they subpoenaed him, and now we know what happened in that hearing. Yeah, so to my understanding, the only thing that he did answer was his name. That's the only thing he did answer was his name.
Biden's personal doctor, Kevin O'Connor, finally went under oath, but he folded like Biden's beach chair. Primetime got the tape. Watch.
Dr. O'Connor, were you ever told to lie about the president's health?
On the advice of counsel, I must respectfully decline to answer based upon the physician-patient privilege and in reliance on my right under the Fifth Amendment of the Constitution. I am not a lawyer. I must follow my lawyer's advice in this matter.
Seems like a pretty simple question. Did you lie about the auto pen's health? Yes or no? O'Connor pleaded the fifth 14 times in 20 minutes.
I must respectfully decline to answer based on the physician-patient privilege and reliance on my right under the Fifth Amendment of the Constitution. On my right under the Fifth Amendment of the Constitution. On my right under the Fifth Amendment of the Constitution. On my right under the Fifth Amendment of the Constitution. On my right under the Fifth Amendment of the Constitution.
I mean, wow, look at that picture. And you know what? They're happy that he did that. Don't tell anything. Don't say anything. Basically, I mean, look, do we need to guess here? Did he lie about Joe Biden's mental capacity? Do we have to guess about it, Shannon? I mean, the very fact that the only thing he did answer was his name. The only thing he answered was his name. But he pleaded the fifth. And of course, the Democrats are completely fine with it. And like, so they're going to come back and say, look, the doctor didn't say anything. He pleaded the fifth. And why do you think he pleaded the fifth? You're going to have to ask him. Isn't that what, don't you think? I'm telling you, you know, that's what they're going to say. I haven't even seen any of the Democrats respond to this yet. I haven't seen any of them respond to it. But when they're asked the question, why do you think he pled the fifth? You're going to have to ask him. And of course, all of the liberal media news, they're going to be like, well, yeah, we should ask him. And then if you ever get the opportunity to ask him, guess what he's going to say? I plead the fifth. That was in the case. You have to go back and review the case. They recorded it. Go back and review it. They lie about everything. They lie about everything. And I wonder if he knew about the auto pen too. What do you think? Well, listen to Comer as he was saying that he was trying to ask him these questions. And again, he didn't answer nothing but one question. And that was his name, apparently.
There was nothing asked in the beginning that would pertain to doctor-patient relationship. This was a question, were you ever told to falsify medical documents for the President of the United States? And he pled the fifth. And then we asked the question, did you ever doubt his mental capacity to fulfill the duties of the presidency? And again, he pled the fifth. The only thing he answered was his name.
The only thing he answered was his name. This dude is guilty as all get out. Because, look, if you didn't do anything wrong, he could answer that and say, no, no one ever asked me. Just think about it. No one ever asked me to lie about a doctor's report. No one's ever asked me to do that. And then he could go on and say, if someone were to ask me to lie on a report, I would have to decline. Because as a doctor, I'm supposed to be transparent. Look, Joe Biden, his medical, President Trump's his medical, Bush his medical, Obama his medical, the Clinton, Billy Clinton his medical, all of that information, except for some extremely private detailed information, but your mental capacity should be public information. It really should be, because these are the people at the top, the tippity top, until you get to the globalists at the tippity top. But President Trump, let me retract that. The tippity top is the president in the world. It really is. Trump is at the top. The only person above Trump is God. How many of y'all disagree? Anybody disagree? The only person above Trump is Jesus, our Lord and Savior. That's above Trump. And even Trump acknowledged that. But everybody else, they fall up under Trump. And so when it comes to the mental capacity, we should know. President Trump, he said, look, I took the test. Happy to take the test. But they don't want people to know the truth. They want to keep it suppressed as much as possible. Much as possible. Hey, let me get y'all to go to my website. Can we do that? UniteAmericaFirst.com. Can y'all support me there? Please, if you like any of the information, you like the reporting, please consider going to UniteAmericaFirst.com and supporting me there. You can become a monthly sponsor. You can put up on the screen for me there, Shannon. It'd be great. Yep, if you can just bring that over for me. Oh, we had it there. Can you just bring it over for me, maybe? Or maybe not. Okay, there we go. Yeah, so if you go to UniteAmericaFirst.com/donate, you can see right there at the top. There's different ways, right? You can support me monthly, or look, if you just want to do it one time, you can scroll down just a little bit right there in the middle. Say, you know what? I like what this dude is saying. I help him out this one time. I would greatly appreciate it. Or for many of you, you don't like to do the digital thing. I completely get it. There is my physical address right there. That's my physical address right there here in the state of Texas. And just to be clear, every single time that someone has sent me something in the mail, letter, like I have some right here actually, and I don't know. This one is from Kimberly out of, Michigan? And then this one is Elaine from St. Louis. So I just want to say thank you to, and I keep all of them. The reason why I want to show this, and I got them backwards here because I don't want you to see the addresses. You can see my address. I just showed it to you. But I keep the envelope and the letter, and people send me blessings that way as well. All right, everybody. Tomorrow's Friday. You're going to open up the phone lines just for you so we can talk about whatever it is you want to talk about, even the UFOs that we don't talk about anymore. God bless everyone. See you tomorrow. Stay safe out there. God bless.